These are 7 players you need to add immediately in fantasy football after week 1. Yes, the options aren't great, but there are some diamonds in the rough, and make sure you stay until the end where I reveal my 4 players you need to stash now before it's too late. Starting at number 7, Jaylen Wright, the rookie running back for the Dolphins. He's pretty much Devon Achane, except he's bigger, sitting at 5'10", 210 pounds, but he's explosive. He has that 4.3 track speed. He was inactive in week 1. So was Achane last year. So these are guys you want to grab before the explosion happens on a good, potent Miami offense in a friendly running back scheme. Mike McDaniels knows how to utilize his running back, and he likes to use 2 running backs. So Mostert got banged up in week 1, potentially Achane as well. They're playing on a short week Thursday night against the Bills. Grab him now before he has a big week 2, and then you have to pay up for him on the waiver wire. You can probably get him for pretty cheap now. Like I said, because he was inactive, he might be flying under the radar. He might be your number 1 waiver wire ad, honestly. Like I said, the waiver wire isn't anything great, but Wright is one of those diamonds in the rough that you attack now because Mostert hasn't played a full season in his 9 NFL career. He's 32 years old. Let's say Mostert does go down for the year, or he's just not that great anymore. He's 32 years old. He's at the end of his career. Miami could turn to Achane and Wright. That would be a dangerous duo. Wright would have immediate flex value. He could potentially be an RB2 for the rest of the season. So grab a guy like Jaylen Wright now, who's really talented, really explosive, in a good situation, good ecosystem. Get him before he goes off in week 2, and thank me later. At number 6, Isaiah Likely went nuclear in week 1 against Kansas City. 9 catches, 111 yards, a touchdown, 26.1 fantasy points on 12 targets, resulting in a 29% target share, 3.58 yards per route run. Here's where I'm a little concerned. I don't think you should drop your bag. Don't drop $100 on Likely, even if you're desperate for a tight end, and here's why. If you go back and look at the tape, Andrews was double-teamed, bracketed often. It was clear and obvious that Kansas City's game plan was to stop Andrews, contain Derrick Henry, and they did just that. On top of that, Andrews, if you do remember, is coming off that car accident that he suffered a couple weeks ago. He missed a lot of practice, so he could be rusty from that. He's also coming off that hip drop tackle, that leg injury that he suffered late last season, so he's rusty. Clearly, he didn't look like himself. He looked slow, sluggish, and then on top of that, he was being double-teamed, and Isaiah Likely was just open in the flat, check down after check down after check down. Yes, he had that big, impressive touchdown. I'm not saying that Likely hasn't earned a bigger role. I'm not saying that he's not going to be a big part of Baltimore's offense, but you can't expect him to completely destroy Andrews in receptions, yards, touchdown every single week. It's going to be a lot closer. It's going to be hard to predict. Andrews will have a big game, Likely won't. So you can't expect Likely to be this top 5 tight end the rest of the year is all I'm saying. If you really need a tight end, go after him, but be prepared for this to even out and probably lean in Andrews' favor for the rest of the year. At number 5, J.K. Dobbins. What a surprise this was. I mean, this is a guy that just tore his Achilles a year ago and racked up 139 yards, a touchdown on 13 touches, 22.9 fantasy points. He was involved in the passing game with 59% route participation. While Dobbins, you could tell he wasn't completely back. He lacked that explosiveness, that game-breaking speed, but nonetheless, probably not even close to 100%. He still looked really good on a Chargers offense that their identity is going to be running the football with not a lot of competition in the backfield. Gus Edwards looks like toast. I know Vidal is back there, the rookie, but this is clearly Dobbins' backfield right now. I'd be aggressive getting the 25-year-old on your team. Yes, he offers injury risk. Yes, this might not continue, but right now this looks really promising, and Dobbins could be in for a really big year. I put hours of work and research into these videos. All I ask is if you can please subscribe to the channel, like this video. It helps me out more than you know. And more than anything, I want to help you guys win your league. I want to connect with you more than me just talking to a camera lens. So leave a comment, leave a question down below. I'd really appreciate it. At number 4, Jameson Williams. Yes, I understand he should already be rostered in every single league in all formats, but every league is different. He might be on the waiver wire. If he is, go get him. And even if he already is taken, I still want to talk about him. I want to talk about what to expect. I want to talk about what happened last night. It's good to finally see Jameson have that monster game that we've been waiting for since he came into the league. 5 catches, 121 yards, a touchdown, 24.4 fantasy points on 9 targets, 32% target share, 85% of the snaps, 94% of the routes. This is what the Lions have been telling us all offseason. It's going to be a breakout campaign for Williams. He's going to be more involved, and that is exactly what happened in week 1. But here's where a little bit of my concern lies, just to temper expectations a little bit. You can't expect this every week, obviously, and the 2 best receiving players on the team, Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta, combined for 7 catches for 58 yards. That's likely never going to happen again. Like, Amon-Ra St. Brown had a horrible game. He's going to lead this team in targets, receptions, touchdowns, every major receiving category, pretty much every week. I still think that J-Mo is the 4th option on this potent Detroit passing attack, behind Amon-Ra, behind Laporta, and behind Gibbs. So while this is nice to see, it's going to be tough to predict. And I do like betting on talented guys on good offenses that will have more opportunities. So don't take this as if Jameson's available on the wire, I'm not going to go get him. Get him on your team. I just want to temper the expectations a little bit because of what we saw in Amon-Ra and Laporta in a game that it was essentially a shootout. Like, the Lions had to put up points. It's not like they crushed the Rams and they were just running out the clock. I just don't think we're going to see Amon-Ra and Laporta combined for 7 catches in a game, probably for the rest of the season. So I love Jameson. It was good to see, but let's all just temper expectations a little bit going forward. At number 3, Bucky Irving. This is a guy that I have liked all offseason, and this is a guy that Tampa Bay absolutely loves. And it was evident right out of the gate that Irving is the much better option on the ground, much better than pass game specialist Rachaad White. That's what we're going to call him. Rachaad White was so successful last year because of what he did through the air, because of his touchdowns, because of his receptions, but Irving had 9 carries for 62 yards in his first game of his NFL career. That's 6.9 yards per carry. Rachaad White had 2.1. So we can't blame this on the offensive line anymore for Rachaad because Irving is getting it done. And on top of that, Bucky added 2 receptions of his own, so he's not a 0 in the passing game either. My expectations are Bucky's going to continue to eat into White's workload as the season progresses. They're going to use Irving more on the ground. What if he turns into the goal line back? He's getting a lot of the rush yards. Like, he's going to have flex value. He could be very usable in fantasy down the stretch. And if you're a Rachaad White owner, frankly, I wouldn't mind selling him, to be honest, if you can get good value for him. I know he's coming off a average performance, but I'm a little worried by this because last year, like I just said, Rachaad White survived on volume, pass down work, and touchdowns. They had no other running back on that roster that they trusted giving the football last year outside of White. And that's just simply not the case this year. We've already seen Bucky Irving establish himself with 9 carries, and he looked really good doing it. So they're going to continue to give him more work, which gives me concern about Rachaad White's overall outlook. At number 2, Brandon Cooks, 30 years old. He's not the sexy pick. You don't get excited putting in a claim for him, but the only reason he's really on here is because of the Jake Ferguson injury, which he sprained his MCL. We're getting reports that he's going to miss some time. We're getting reports that he might play week 2. Who really knows? If Ferguson plays week 2, then I'm not as excited about Brandon. But if Cooks is the number 2 option on this passing attack for the next several weeks, then you should absolutely grab him. He's coming off 4 catches, 40 yards, and a touchdown on 7 targets. And that was in a blowout win against the Browns where Dallas threw 32 times total. So they weren't even really passing the ball a lot. And Cook still put up those numbers, which is encouraging because when they are in shootouts, when they are playing against better teams where they have to keep up, like against the Ravens in week 3, then Cooks becomes more appealing. Like I said, if Ferguson's back in week 2 or week 3, not as excited about Brandon, but you want to go after guys who are the number 2 option in a really good passing attack in Dallas, attached to a nice quarterback in Dak. At number 1, Tank Bigsby. Never thought we'd be here after what we saw from Tank in year 1, but hey, he looks like a different back. Yes, it's a small sample size. Yes, it's only week 1, but he outperformed Travis Etienne on the ground, where Bigsby had 12 carries for 73 yards, 6.1 yards per carry, compared to Etienne, who also had 12 carries, but only managed 44 yards, 3.7 yards per carry. And Tank looked really good on almost every single touch, which was not the case at all from what we saw last year. So he looks like a different back on a Jacksonville team that has talked up Bigsby all offseason, saying they want to get him more involved. They want to take less work off Etienne. This isn't the same as Irving and White, just because I think Etienne is a better running back than Rachaad White is, but it gives a little bit of pause, a little bit of concern if you are an Etienne owner. Nonetheless, go out and get Bigsby on your team now, because if his role continues to grow, similar to Bucky Irving, like if he gets a bigger role, whether it's in the red zone or he gets first and second down, like whatever it is, if his role grows, Bigsby could have really nice fantasy value. He's a guy you can get for cheap. Now, you can probably still get him for cheap. There's a lot of people out there probably that are like, oh, Tank Bigsby, he stinks. Like, take advantage right now before he puts together another good game and he's a lot more expensive. On to 4 players that I think you need to stash now. First one being Marshawn Lloyd for the Green Bay Packers. Yes, he didn't play in week 1 due to injury, but Josh Jacobs struggled a little bit. I'd get Lloyd on my team now, especially when Jordan Love comes back. He could be a big part of the offense. Ray Davis would be my next guy, rookie running back for the Bills. Didn't see a ton of work in week 1, but these are guys that if something happens to the starter, they have RB2, potentially RB1 upsides. So you want to hold on to these guys now so you don't have to fight for them on the waiver wire, and you can slide them in your starting roster if something happens to the starter, like I said, or if they just earn a bigger role. My next guy would be Jaleel McLaughlin, a guy that I've been talking about as a sleeper breakout candidate. Didn't look good in week 1, but he got a ton of opportunities. The Denver offense as a whole didn't look good. I think there's better days for Jaleel. Grab him now. And then Xavier Legette, not a fan of the offense. Bryce Young looked horrible again, but I'm strictly betting on the talent of Legette. I think he gets more opportunities. Carolina's going to be losing a lot of games. They're going to be passing a ton. And I'm going to throw in a bonus guy. It's Jordan Mason. I am recording this before Monday Night Football, running back for the 49ers, so I don't really know what's going to happen, but nonetheless, get Jordan Mason on your team, because if something were to ever happen to Christian McCaffrey, he would be a league winner. That's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. If you got anything from the video, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe, like the video. It helps me out more than you know, and I will see you in the next one.